I can't believe I have to do another take of the intro because I messed up the pronunciation of Lily Collins. But anyway, hey guys, what's up? Steve here. Tonight we're doing yet another film review of a movie that came out on a streaming platform, this one being Netflix. The movie we're talking about tonight is called Mank. It was directed by David Fincher and stars Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried, and Lily Collins. The film follows 1930s Hollywood through the eyes of Herman J. Mankiewicz, otherwise known as Mank, played by Gary Oldman. His re-evaluation of 1930s Hollywood happens through a series of flashbacks, both fantastical and socially critical, as Mank tries to finish writing the screenplay for what many now consider to be one of the best movies ever made, Citizen Kane. The influence that Citizen Kane has had on cinema is something worth talking about in an entirely different series of videos altogether. But another thing that made me want to gravitate toward this film was that it's directed by David Fincher. And let's just say I'm a pretty big fan of David Fincher's work. And another thing that piqued my curiosity about this film, which I didn't really know about it until right before I watched it, was that it was written by his dad, who passed away sadly. But his dad wanted this movie to be made. And David Fincher wanted to make this film a really long time ago. Obviously, that kind of turned into a passion project where David Fincher always wanted to make it, but he just never really had the opportunity. And now he has that opportunity, and now I want to know what that passion project's going to be like. And overall, what I have to say about the film? Well, let's just dive into it. Gary Oldman plays Mank really, really well. I mean, he's coming off of the role that he played a couple years ago in Darkest Hour, and while I would not say this really touches the larger-than-life attitude of that role, this is yet another stab at, I guess you could call it him trying to give a larger-than-life performance of a historical figure. And while I wouldn't say that it is his best performance ever, it is a damn good performance. But one of the really good people in this film is Amanda Seyfried. She is phenomenal in her role. And I gotta say, the acting by the others is really good too. Charles Dance, Arliss Howard, and I know this isn't exactly a big role, but one thing I do want to mention is that there is a cameo in the film by somebody who I absolutely did not expect. Pay close attention to who plays Upton Sinclair. When I first saw it, I was like, is that who I think it is? And I looked it up on the IMDb, and it was that guy. I'm not going to say who it is. You'll have fun finding it out for yourself. Now, despite the great performances that I just mentioned, those performances take kind of a back seat to what I consider the real star of the show, which is the set of technical specs that make this film look and sound amazing. One thing that I will say about this film is a lot of people are probably going to hate it. And that's because it is definitely not like films that you usually see today. They did whatever they possibly could to make it look and sound like this came straight out of the 1940s. Which is all the more amazing considering how this movie was shot. Apparently it was shot in 8K, but they did a ton of stuff to it to make it look really, really old. But it still looks really, really good. And the sound, they used a mono sound mix, and basically that just means all the sound is on one track. And in this sound mix, not only is it mono, but whenever somebody's talking, no matter where they are, it has like this weird echo to it, like they're talking on a sound stage. And normally you'd see that in a movie and it would sound terrible, but they were going for a certain feel here, and they nailed it. You can tell when they made this movie that they were going for a really, for lack of better words, meta look. They were going for something where it looked exactly like they were trying to make a movie in the 40s. And this is what you would hear when you're trying to make that movie in the 40s. With a couple of technical exceptions. One of the things that I actually really liked about the film is that during the transitions, they treat it like it's a screenplay transition. They actually put interior, location, time of day, when they're referring to flashbacks and scene transitions. And it's kind of showy, but I liked it. And once again, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross make a really fantastic score for this film. it is really fun to listen to and matches the movie quite well. Now, one other thing that I want to talk about the film is that it is historical fiction. One thing that I know that a lot of people were wondering was, how far is this movie going to go into the historical aspect of this? Is it going to be totally not with it in terms of history? Is it going to make up its own story? Is it going to try and be as historically accurate as possible? Is it going to be some damning, scathing review about how Orson Welles supposedly stole the script from Herman J. Mankiewicz and stole all the credit? These things are all embroiled in controversy. They have been for years, especially with the writing credits of Herman J. Mankiewicz and Orson Welles on Citizen Kane. There have been entire books written about it, that a lot of people have even written response books about how those books aren't true, just to illustrate the controversy around the subject matter. And let's not forget, David Fincher also directed The Social Network, which, regardless of what you think of the film, I think it's a fantastic film, just to let you guys know. There's a lot of debate about how historically accurate it is. I can't say the word historically, apparently. But basically, the long and short of what I'm trying to say is that when you watch this film, you gotta take the historical depictions of it with a grain of salt, because this is one of those cases where you gotta remember it's historical fiction, and I don't even know if I'd call it that. It's apparent that I wouldn't say they don't care about the figures in history or that they don't care about the history, but they're not aiming to tell a historical story, if that makes sense. What they're trying to do is take characters from history and tell a story with those characters. And I guess the main reason why I'm saying that is that this movie is definitely trying to be a bit of a social commentary piece. Mank in the film is depicted as somebody who is kind of aloof, but at the same time doesn't like a lot of the things that are happening around him. He loves 1930s Hollywood for what it produces, but he also hates certain things it produces. There's a bit of a cautionary tale embroiled in there that kind of mirrors a lot of the things that we are seeing today. What it feels like to be somebody who is in some ways benefiting from the machine, but also not liking how that machine operates, and how other people who are part of that machine are driving it in directions that you don't like. And sometimes you feel like there's something you can do, but then there are some times where you feel like there's nothing you can do, and all you can do is point out to people that it's going on in a sarcastic way. And that's one of the biggest things about Mank that made me think, when I was trying to describe at the very beginning what I thought of the film. For those of you who don't follow my normal reviews, I usually give a really, really quick synopsis of whether I liked or loved or hated the film, which hated usually doesn't happen very often when I'm doing a review, because in general I don't like to bash movies, unless they're totally deserving of it. But when it came to Mank, it falls into a very special category that only happens every great once in a while, where honestly my answer to do I like this film, I don't know. It's a strange feeling to be in, because there are so many amazing things about it, but there's something about it that you just don't get. And I will readily acknowledge that there is something about it that I just don't get, and I'm not entirely sure if I understand. One of the biggest things is that while I think that the acting from the characters was good, I didn't really care that much about any of the characters. It kind of felt like they were just flowing through these scenes. Even the main character of Mank. His character isn't exactly somebody who is traditionally likable. He drinks a lot. He often chastises people around him. He often takes the route of being very sarcastic and pompous when criticizing something, instead of trying to do it constructively. And sometimes he speaks as if every single word he's saying he's expecting to be written on a stone tablet. And sometimes he messes that up. In short, you don't really feel for the characters, and there's this distance from them that you feel. It's almost like the technical aspects overtake the entire frame and the characters just are kind of there. It's not like you can get absorbed in the characters. But the thing is, basically because of the social commentary that's trying to be there and how it's about somebody who kind of feels off from what's going on, I'm starting to wonder if that was the point. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm not sure exactly if I like it or not. Because I'm starting to think that maybe that emotional distance is what they were going for. But then again, I'm not entirely sure. And because of that, this is one of those movies where I feel like in order to really get it, I might need to watch it again. And that's also why I think a lot of people are going to flat out hate this movie. But, you know, I'd recommend giving it a shot. A lot of people are going to call this movie flat out Oscar bait, and there are some nominations it absolutely deserves, especially in the technical categories. But I've got to say, I don't really think I consider it Oscar bait. I think there might be another layer to it that upon the first viewing, I'm just not seeing. But hey, maybe I'll watch it again and let you guys know. But anyway, that's it for this review, guys. I hope you liked it. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps out with the algorithm and helps people who don't know about my content find it. And if you're new here, or if you just haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content from me. And if you really want to keep up with the content from me, go ahead and hit that bell icon so that not only are you subscribed, but you get notifications when I post new content. And with that being said, have a good night, and I'll see you guys later.